Okay, so this is part 2 of Buffy Season 2 of episode by episode. Let's go straight into it. No messing around, let's go straight in with Bad Eggs. Bad Eggs is an episode that a lot of people seem to dislike, and I quite enjoy it. I don't really know why, because it's a very, very silly episode. It is, it's very, the whole concept of it is just, it's not overly original, it's not overly special, there's not a lot to it, but for some reason the humour of this one just works for me. The two vampires that we get in this, Lyle and Tector, is that their names? I enjoy them. I think they're great fun. And just, the comedy of this episode just really, really works for me. I just love the team up of Buffy and Xander trying to save the day. And this very much just feels like an episode that's the calm before the storm. It's the light-hearted romp that we need before things get very, very dark and serious. It's the last chance Buffy kind of really has to do that before everything goes to hell. Not literally. Well, one of them does. Just a really fun episode. I enjoy Bad Eggs. So I thought for the next episode, I'd introduce you to two people. This is Buffy. This is Willow. We call them that because Buffy's kind of cool with people and Willow's a little bit nervous. For us. That's why they got their names. And you two are going to help me review Surprise, aren't you? Yeah? What do you think of it? Did you like it? No? Never seen it? Let's guess your guinea pigs. So I said with What's My Line that the first part of it was a really, really slow episode, and it's the same here. Surprise is a very, very slow episode of the show, but it works a lot more because of the foreboding. This really feels like it's building towards something. And I don't know whether that's just because I know that it's building towards something, because we know what happens at the end of Surprise. But even then, I think there's just a lot more substance to this than there was with What's My Line. Everything about Angel having to leave, everything about the judge, Spike and Drusilla trying to build this threat up. Like, the judge feels like a threat. Everything feels like something very dark, ominous, and dangerous is coming, and that's why Surprise works so well. I love the dream sequence at the start, like the music used in that one. I forget the name of the artist now, but it's such a good song. The whole two-parter, really, for me, it's just where Buffy just really begins. Where it becomes the kind of show that we know, the kind of show that we know and love, and it just begins with Surprise. Everything about it works. Buffy's birthday curse continuing. She has another terrible birthday here, probably one of her worst birthdays, in fact. I just absolutely love this episode. It just feels like all the pieces of this show have finally started coming together. Not that the show was bad to this point, it wasn't. There was some great episodes, and I've discussed a lot of those great episodes already, but just Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show that gets so much acclaim now, the show that everybody just loves so much, just really, really kicks off here. This is when it started telling stories that were daring, that were brave, that were bold. And Buffy and Angel, I'd say that they become a little bit sickening up to this point, like they had, when they were happy, it wasn't quite working. But that final moment where they kind of give in to the passion with each other, and you see Angel going through that change at the end, it's one of those moments in TV that I'll never forget. It's such a good moment where you just see literally the show changing. Yeah, love this episode. Love it a lot. It's bettered, though, by the next one, Innocence. So Innocence is Buffy at its peak. There's only so much praise you can give before you start to feel like you're just fawning over an episode of TV. Innocence deserves it, though. What is not to love here? Every single thing works. I mean, even the judge, he's just a kind of a one-off villain, really. But not only is he played really well, but just the way it's all resolved. Like, Buffy gets a rocket launcher, for crying out loud. It's great. It's awesome. Love that. But, of course, the real meat of the episode... In fact, we'll get to it in a second, because there's more. I keep forgetting how much is going on. Willow finding out about Buffy and about Xander and Cordelia as well. Such a great moment. Alison Hannigan plays that perfectly. You've got more going on with her and Oz. You've got the fact that Xander and Cordelia have been caught out by everybody. They're now out in the open. So many different things are at play, and that's without even getting into the fact that Angel is Angelus. That Angel is evil now. And as David Boreanaz play that well. He really does. I like him as Angel, I do. But this, like, if you're watching it for the first time and you're not familiar with him, you might think he's a little bit one note as Angel. As soon as he gets to play Angelus, like, all bets are off. He's amazing as Angelus. Absolutely amazing. And just, he's written so nastily as well. Like, Joss Whedon must be messed up in some way, because he writes some really horrible stuff for Angelus to say to Buffy. Really horrible, but it's so effective. The performances are great. Sarah Michelle Gellar's really been better. Like, she gives one of the best performances in this episode. Whenever I think of Buffy, whenever I think of how good this show is, Innocence is an episode that always pops into my mind. Like, if I was rating it, I'd give it a 10 out of 10 easily. There's just no flaws with this. There's no problems at all that I can find with this episode. It's just one of the best episodes, not just of Buffy, but of TV. I absolutely love it. Even little moments, just the little birthday cake scene at the end with Buffy and Joyce. Just little quiet moments like that even work in this. Like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer went from a good show to an incredible one in these 2 episodes. Okay, thanks for helping, guys. Should we put you back in? Phases. Now, Oz was a character that I liked from the start, just purely because of how he was played by Seth Green, but it's so good in this one to finally find out what's going on with him. I don't think the episode is quite as good as it could have been. Like, the whole werewolf hunter thing, like, I get why it was a necessity, I get why he was involved, but that character didn't really work for me, and the episode as a whole didn't really come to life quite in the way that it should. But saying that, I really, really enjoyed Willow and Oz in this one. Oz's phone call is one of my favourite Oz moments. Just that when he's calling up to find out whether his cousin was bit by a werewolf, and he's just all, okay, and when did that happen? Just, it's so nonchalant, just so like it's not a big deal. I love that. Seth Green's so good. He really is. I wish he stuck around longer. But then we got Tara, so I guess there's pluses for why he went as well. But yeah, the Willow and Oz is such a sweet relationship. And Willow's, the way she reacts to Oz being a werewolf. Yeah, obviously at first she's terrified because there's a freaking werewolf chasing her. But just, it says a lot about her character that it's not really a big deal to her that Oz does this. She still wants to be with Oz. She still loves Oz. It's a really, really fun episode for those two. As I say, I don't think the episode as a whole is quite as good as it could have been, but just for Willow and Oz alone, it's definitely one that's worth watching. And it has some really, really fun moments in it as well. Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered. Can we all take a moment to notice that we have a Xander-centric episode that's good? Finally. It took 4 of them, but we finally got one. This is so much fun. Really is. Amy comes back in just a really fun way again, and it's the one where we get her turned into a rat as well. It's the last we see of Amy in human form for quite some time. But yeah, just Xander's breakup with Cordelia. Like, the way she does it, like, yeah, it's harsh. You can see why he's pissed. You can see why he would want to do a love spell. I mean, it's very, very creepy. It's a bit of a sinister thing to do, but it's kind of in keeping with Xander, because he's not the nicest of characters all the time. He does some very questionable things throughout his time on the show. So this is very in keeping with who he is. And just to see it backfire in the way that it does, there's so much fun to just be had of all of these women just being crazy for him to the point of killing. To the point where they would literally murder for him. Just seeing Xander so far over his head. And Nicholas Brendan's brilliant in this as well, but what I really like is that it's not just Xander who comes out of this one looking great. Charisma Carpenter is brilliant as Cordelia as well. Like, she is pretty much just as much of a focus as Xander is here. And it's proof that these two work so well together. I love it when Charisma Carpenter gets some really fun material to work with, and she really does here. Just seeing her standing up to all of these crazed people trying to kill her, she does a really, really good job of it. I just really, really enjoy this episode. I love it. And it's not just because of Buffy and that little coat thing. Although that helps. That certainly helps, I'm not going to lie. Passion. So from a really fun episode to, oh my God, Joss Whedon, why have you removed my heart from my chest? What can be said about this episode? It's utterly, utterly devastating on so many levels. Jenny Calendar, it was great. I loved that character. Absolutely loved her. And she did so many good things for Giles as well. Giles is always great. He's always awesome. But just seeing him work towards happiness again, just to have it snatched away, is so perfectly in keeping with Buffy. Anthony Head just breaks my heart every single time. And the way it's done, not only is just the moment absolutely brutal, but just the thought that Angelus goes through to kind of lay the body out almost ceremoniously, like the roses leading up to the bed, it's just absolutely hideous. It's a really hideous thing, and if you ever wanted proof that Angelus is evil, you get it in this scene. Like, it's not just a killing, it's done to torment as well. It's done to just break Giles. And I love seeing Giles just vengefully going after Angelus, just wanting to kill him, just not caring about anything and burning the warehouse down. Just seeing him all vengeful is so powerful to watch. And his interaction with Buffy as well, Buffy trying to talk him out of it and get him to stand down and trying to stop him from getting killed. Just, yeah, brilliant stuff. Like, I can't fault Phases, I can't fault Passion at all. It's one of the best episodes of season 2, and the back half of season 2 is just filled with so many great episodes. There's just so many memorable moments. It's Buffy at its peak, and this, yeah, just a great example of how good this show could be. Like, killing off the character, and Jenny was a pretty major character. Killing her off like this, say a lesser show would have just had her murdered, but to have the thought to just show what Angelus is really like, it's so powerful. Killed by death. One of the weak points, I think, in the second half of season 2 for me. It's got some interesting moments, like exploring Buffy's childhood and the actual Der Kinderstod thing that I clearly can't pronounce. It's an intriguing enough villain, and I like the setting. I like that it's set at a hospital, and this does have that great Xander and Angelus scene as well. We get to see Xander standing up to Angel and not really showing any fear in front of him. It's a great moment, but the overall story itself doesn't really work for me. There's just something about it that doesn't feel like it clicks, and it also feels like it comes along at a bit of a strange time as well. Things had been building, particularly with that last episode, and this felt like a step back. It felt like we had an episode that should have taken place earlier in the season, really. At this point, Buffy had come into its own so much that it was almost a shame to see kind of this sort of filler episode. And I get that they're needed. There's one coming up that I did quite enjoy. I enjoyed its placing, but this one felt like it came at the wrong time, and maybe that did affect my enjoyment of it. Killed by Death isn't an episode that I'd say is bad as such, but it falters in a lot of places. It never feels like it comes to life. And as I say, some good moments scattered here and there, but on the whole, it misses the mark for me. I Only Have Eyes for You is one of my favourite Buffy episodes. And I can't really explain why. I think for some reason this episode just always stands out to me when I think of Buffy. It's just one that I always want to go back and rewatch. Just the idea of this haunting. I love ghost stories. Anything to do with ghosts absolutely fascinates me, and I think this one's done really, really well. The use of the I Only Have Eyes for You song, I think that's used so well in this one. It's used at all the right moments, and it's a very, very haunting song. Like, I can't listen to that song now without thinking of this episode, which means that it was definitely an effective episode. And I love the whole notion as well of these ghosts possessing people and possessing our characters. Sort of Buffy and Angel, it's with everything going on with them, it was great to see them not only possessed by the ghost, but have those roles reversed as well, as Angel or Angelus was the female ghost and Buffy was the male. Like, the fact that it's had the foresight to switch things on its head like that really played to the actor's strengths and really kind of showed us a different facet to these characters as well, to how they reacted to it. Like, Angelus is absolutely disgusted by the end of it, and Buffy's just shaken to her core. And it's not just that aspect I love as well, it's the whole of the team working together, the whole of the Scooby Gang working together to solve the problems, or the haunting at the school, and them trying to kind of exorcise these spirits and find out what's going on. It's just such a great episode for everybody. Not all of them get massive moments to shine, but they're all kind of integral to the plot. They all have their own fun things to do. For some reason, for whatever reason it is, this is just one of those episodes that's always been one of my favourites, and I never get tired of it. It's probably the episode I've watched the most as well, and certainly one of the best for me when it comes to just standalone episodes. Absolutely love this one. Go Fish is the episode I was talking about a little while ago, how we're getting a filler episode at kind of an important time, but this one I think is necessary. The 2-part finale, which we're just about to get to, is very, very heavy. It's a very heavy couple of episodes, and we needed something a little bit more lighthearted. And what better than a swim team that turned into fish? It's such a Buffy concept. It really is. And again, this isn't an episode that's overly good. Like, it's not. It's very messy. A lot of things don't make sense. It's a little bit too silly in places. Just the whole concept of the swimming coach giving them this kind of cocktail thing that turns them into fish. Like, it's what? Why? Why is that a thing? But yeah, for some reason, I don't mind. For some reason, I'm okay to just go along for the ride on this one. I find it to be a great deal of fun. It's awesome seeing a very young Michael Scofield, and that guy doesn't age, does he? Wentworth Miller. He really doesn't. But yeah, it's fun to see him in this one, and just, yeah, fun. Kind of summed this one up. It's an episode that I have fun with. It's an episode that I just think is a good time. And the placing of it works. I think we needed something a little bit more silly, something a little bit more lighthearted before we get into the weight and depth of the finale. And this one does that. This one ticks the boxes for me. Not particularly memorable, certainly not bad, just kind of an average, okay episode that I enjoy. Becoming. So here we are, the 2-part finale, Becoming parts 1 and 2. Peak Buffy. I just want to say one thing about this one though, one problem I have with Becoming. Buffy has a lot of issues at times when it comes to stunt work, when it comes to its stunt doubles, and I'm really sorry, if you've never noticed this before, once you've been told it, it does ruin a pivotal scene, so you may not want to listen. But the fight between Buffy and Angel in part 2, when they're in the mansion, the worst stunt double. Angel just goes from having his full head of hair to being very much receding. Like, it's so clearly a different actor in that fight scene that it completely takes me out of what's going on, which is such a shame, because everything has been perfect up to that point. Every single thing has been nailed absolutely perfectly. But this stunt double is so not David Boreanaz. I don't understand how it wasn't noticed. I don't understand how nobody in the edit went, hang on, this guy's balding and David Boreanaz definitely isn't. Should we not do something about that? Don't get how that was missed. But that is luckily just a small aside, because both parts of Becoming are Buffy at its best. Like, they really, really are. The flashbacks, we get some great use of flashbacks here. Angel with his Irish accent and his big long hair just work absolutely well. It's fun seeing Darla again. Kendra comes back in, and her death is just an absolute gut punch. I was never really a huge fan of the character of Kendra, but just the way she went. And I love that it was by Drusilla as well, because I've praised Juliet Landau before, and I'll always do it because she's so good. But just the way she does it, just with her nail and kind of the hypnotising thing that Drusilla does. Such a great scene. Buffy on the run. She's on the run from the police. Buffy and Spike teaming up. Obviously, Buffy sending Angel to hell. This episode even got me into Sarah McLachlan. I love Sarah McLachlan because of the Full of Grace song that's played in this one. But this is an episode where every single character gets their moment. Willow, this is where we see her lean into the magic side of things fully. Like, she does the spell that gets Angel his soul back. Xander lying to Buffy, saying that the spell couldn't be done. Like that, I love the fact, by the way, that gets brought up many, many years later. Giles, like, holding his own against sort of the torture tactics of Drusilla, and sort of the use of Jenny Calendar coming back again. Like, every single character gets a moment in the spotlight here, and every single actor brings their A game. It's like they knew how strong this script was, and they weren't going to let the side down at all, and none of them do. And let's talk about that ending. I've said before that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is so good when it's dealing with heartbreak, when things aren't happy. And it's so typical of this show to give Angel his soul back right before Buffy has to kill him. Like, I don't think another show would have done that. I think they would have just had Buffy kill him, and then that's it. Like, she kills him, and she's still obviously sad and upset because she killed the man she loved, even though he became evil. But to have him revert back to the old Angel, to the Angel that she loved, right before, when she has no choice but to do it, it's just heartbreaking. It really is, and it's performed so well. It really is. I always seem to praise Sarah Michelle Gellar and say this was her best performance, but again here she just brings her absolute A game to it. The final few minutes of this episode are so good. Just the rest of the Scooby Gang at the school, sort of waiting for Buffy, wondering if she's going to show up while Buffy leaves Sunnydale. It's such an effective cliffhanger and such an effective way to close out this season. And this really does feel like the culmination of everything. Spike and Drusilla are gone, Angel's dead, Buffy's gone. It feels like season 2's got a full stop at the end of it. And every good season should have. It should feel like one complete story, and this certainly does. I love Becoming. So apart from that little bit with a stunt double, this is perfection for Buffy. And I've said this a couple of times this season as well, like Innocence, Only Have Eyes for You, episodes that I really love. And that's what I mean about how strong this is. I said in the last video that I think the first half of Season 2 had its moments, but it was still a bit hit and miss. It was still a bit stuck in Season 1 mode. The latter half of Season 2, not at all. There's a couple of issues with it. I say Killed by Death I didn't particularly like. I thought Phases had problems. But they're not major things. It's the odd little blip here and there. This is what Buffy is. This is what this show becomes. Just a consistently great show. And the second half of Season 2 epitomises that. It just shows how strong this is. So many episodes are stellar, so many great moments. There's loads of things I haven't even mentioned because I don't want this video to go on for about 12 hours, which it would do. If I was listing every single thing I loved about these episodes, we'd be here for a very long time. But just know that this batch of episodes is what made me a fan. It's what made me name 2 guinea pigs. Well, it was a joint effort. Me and Mel both chose the names Buffy and Willow. But it's what made me name 2 guinea pigs, Buffy and Willow. It's what made me got the t-shirt. It's what made me want to do videos and talk about this show. And it's what gets me annoyed when people say they don't watch it because it's just a silly show with a silly name. I do think the name's silly, but this is just the kind of show that if you actually gave it your full attention, if you gave it a shot, there was so much to love, because I don't think there's a show with better written characters out there. And these episodes show that. So that's Buffy Season 2. Buffy Season 3, the first half, will be up next week. I'm interested to talk about those. I've got some mixed thoughts on the first half of Season 3. I do like it, but yeah, we'll get into that more then. If you enjoyed this video, do hit like and do hit subscribe. And as ever, do tell me your thoughts on these episodes in the comments below as well. I love talking Buffy. I love talking anything, really. But yeah, I do want to discuss this with you. So let me know what you think about the episodes, whether you like them, whether you didn't. Let's chat about them. You can follow me on Twitter as well and talk to me on there if you like. I'm on there at Joe Julians. Thank you very much for watching. Look out for more reviews and more videos on the way soon, and I'll see you on the next video.